He laughed when the black boy said he could make him walk. Not a polite laugh, not an uncertain one. A cruel, confident laugh, the kind powerful men use when they're sure they're untouchable. $43 million, Graham Hollis said from his wheelchair. That's what I spent trying to fix these legs. Harvard doctors, London specialists, Tokyo labs, and you think you can do what they couldn't? The boy didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He just looked at Graham and said, "Prepare the check." That was the moment something shifted. Not in Graham's legs, in his chest, because for the first time in 5 years, the billionaire felt something far more terrifying than paralysis. He felt doubt, and standing in his mansion, surrounded by money, power, and people who feared him, he suddenly realized the one person who wasn't afraid was an 8-year-old black child everyone else would have ignored. And that child was about to change everything. Some people learn cruelty slowly. Graham Hollis learned it early and perfected it with money. At 52, Graham Hollis controlled everything around him except his own legs. From his custom wheelchair, he ruled Hollis Ridge Estate in Lexington, Kentucky, a property so vast and manicured that even the shadows looked expensive. The locals whispered his name with caution. Former employees spoke it with bitterness. To Graham, fear was just another asset, one he had learned to leverage well. That morning, the sky was a clean, unforgiving blue. Graham sat behind his desk, staring through the glass wall at the rose gardens, when Connor Hayes, head of security, escorted an older black man into the office. Earl Bennett stood stiffly, cap clutched in his hands. 60 years old, 20 years of service, calloused fingers that told a story Graham never cared to read. "You know why you're here," Graham said flatly. Earl swallowed. "Mr. Hollis, I stepped on the grass by mistake. I didn't see the sign. I can fix it." "You already fixed it," Graham cut in, his tone sharp. "You ruined it." The word hung in the air, heavier than it should have been. Earl's shoulders sagged. "Sir, my wife's dialysis, my grandbaby, please. I've given this place half my life." Graham leaned back, eyes cold. "And still don't understand standards. You're done here." Connor shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Hollis, maybe—" "Walk him out," Graham snapped. As Earl turned to leave, his eyes met Graham's for just a second. There was no anger in them, just something quieter. Disappointment. Graham looked away first. When the door closed, the silence felt irritating. Graham reached for the stack of medical reports on his desk, thick folders filled with scans, opinions, and words like irreversible and permanent. 5 years since the accident, 5 years since the doctors took away his ability to walk and, in his mind, gave him permission to stop trying. Nora Delaney, his secretary of 14 years, knocked softly and stepped in. Dr. Owen Hartley called from London. He reviewed the latest data. Graham picked up the phone, jaw tight. The call ended like all the others. No breakthroughs, no hope. He slammed the phone down. "Useless," he muttered. "All of them." Moments later, Connor returned, but this time alone. "There's someone at the gate," Connor said carefully. "If it's another charity rep, tell them—" "It's a kid," Connor interrupted. "Black boy, maybe 8, says he needs to see you." Graham laughed, a short, humorless sound. "And why would I waste my time with a child?" Connor hesitated. "He says he can help you walk." The room went still. "What did you just say?" Connor cleared his throat. "He says he can heal you. He's been standing out there for 2 hours." Graham felt something stir, anger mixed with curiosity. A black child, poor enough to wait under the sun at his gate, claiming something even world-class doctors couldn't do. A slow smile crept across Graham's face. "Bring him in," he said. "Let's see how confident he is in person." 15 minutes later, the boy stood in front of him. Jalen Brooks was smaller than Graham expected. Clean sneakers, faded jeans, a shirt carefully tucked in. His hair was neatly cut. His eyes, steady, dark, unflinching, were what caught Graham's attention. No fear, no awe. That annoyed him. "So," Graham said, voice dripping with skepticism, "you're the kid who thinks he can fix me?" Jalen nodded. "Yes, sir." Graham chuckled. "Do you have any idea how many doctors have stood where you're standing? Harvard, Zurich, Tokyo. People who've spent their entire lives studying the human body. Jalen met his gaze. I know. And you think you know better than them? Graham leaned forward. You? Yes, sir. The calmness in the boy's voice rubbed Graham the wrong way. It wasn't confidence, it was certainty. Tell me, Graham continued, eyes narrowing, do you even know what's wrong with my spine? Jalen paused. I know what they told you. And that would be? That it's impossible. Graham laughed louder this time. Exactly. He gestured at his legs. 5 years, $43 million. And you walk in here like you belong, saying you can do what they couldn't. Jalen didn't look away. They treated what they saw. And what do you see, Grandpa? What do you see? Graham asked, mocking. I see someone who stopped believing, Jalen said quietly. The words landed harder than Graham expected. He scoffed. Listen, kid, you don't get to come into my house and lecture me. You don't know what I've lost. Jalen's voice stayed even. I know what you're losing now. That did it. Graham straightened, his tone turning sharp and dangerous. You know what? You've got guts. I'll give you that. So let's make this interesting. He leaned closer. If you make me walk, I'll give you $1 million. Jalen blinked once. But when you fail, Graham continued, smiling cruelly, you'll leave here knowing you were foolish enough to believe you belonged in rooms like this, knowing there are limits for people like you. The implications sat thick between them. Jalen studied Graham for a moment, then nodded. Prepare the check, he said. The smile froze on Graham's face. For the first time in years, something unfamiliar crept into his chest. Doubt. Connor shifted uncomfortably, sensing the shift in the air. Graham waved him off. Cancel my afternoon, he ordered. I want to see how this plays out. As Jalen followed Connor out of the room to wait, Graham stared at the empty doorway, his pulse unsteady. A black child had just challenged him in his own house. Not with anger, not with pleading, but with certainty. And Graham Hollis, a man who built his life on control, realized something unsettling. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't sure who was in charge anymore. What did you feel about the way Graham treated Jalen? Anger, sadness, or recognition? Graham Hollis did not sleep that night. The house was silent, but his mind wasn't. Every word the boy had said kept replaying, not loudly, but relentlessly, like a drip of water that refuses to stop. Graham had spent 5 years surrounding himself with certainty. Doctors, reports, diagnoses, cold facts that allowed him to believe he was finished trying. And yet, a black child with worn sneakers and steady eyes had cracked that certainty without raising his voice once. By morning, irritation hardened into resolve. If this was a game, Graham would end it decisively. He ordered the estate sealed for the day, meetings canceled, staff dismissed. Only Connor Hayes and Nora Delaney remained, moving quietly through the halls, sensing something volatile in the air. When Jalen Brooks was escorted back into the office, he noticed immediately what had changed. The desk was no longer the center of the room. Multiple screens covered the walls now, glowing with medical images. X-rays, MRI scans, charts filled with lines, labels, and numbers that meant nothing to most people, and everything to men like Graham Hollis. Sit, Graham said sharply, pointing to a chair opposite him. Jalen sat without hesitation. Yesterday, Graham began, you planted a ridiculous idea in my head. Today I'm gonna kill it. He tapped a remote. The first screen lit up with a high-resolution scan of his spine. This, Graham said, is a complete spinal cord injury, diagnosed by Dr. Andrew Whitaker, Harvard Medical School, top of his class. Another click. Dr. Owen Hartley, London, revolutionized neurological diagnostics. Another. Dr. Deere. Lucas Brandt, Germany, neural rehabilitation pioneer. The room filled with names, accolades, awards, faces of men and women the world trusted without question. They all said the same thing, Graham continued, voice rising. No sensation, no motor function, no cure. He leaned forward. So tell me, kid, what qualification do you have that they don't? Jalen looked at the screens, then back at Graham. They see what's broken, he said. You do too, Graham scoffed. And you see miracles? I see fear. The word hit like a slap. Graham's jaw tightened. You think I'm afraid? Yes, Jalen said simply, not of being paralyzed, of hoping. The room went quiet. Graham stood, or rather straightened in his wheelchair, anger burning hot. You have no idea what you're talking about. I fought. I spent fortunes. I trusted the best. And when they said it was impossible, Jalen replied, you believed them more than you believed yourself. That's science, Graham snapped. Not belief. Jalen stood and walked slowly toward one of the screens, studying the scan of Graham's spine. When you look at this, he asked, what do you see? My injury, Graham said immediately. The proof. You only look for damage, Jalen said. So that's all you ever see. Graham felt his chest tighten. This is medicine, reality, not hope speeches from a child. Jalen turned back to him. How long has it been since you tried to stand? Graham laughed, bitter. Why would I? My body doesn't work. Your body didn't disappear, Jalen said. Your legs didn't vanish. They're useless, Graham snapped. They're quiet, Jalen corrected. There's a difference. Graham slammed his hand on the armrest. Enough, you want to impress me? Explain how you'd heal me, step by step. Jalen paused. Do you want the truth, he asked, or do you want proof that I'm wrong? Graham hesitated. The question unsettled him more than any medical chart. I want the truth, he said finally. Jalen nodded. Then you need to stop thinking like a patient. Graham frowned. What does that mean? Patients wait, Jalen said, and they give their power away. You did that 5 years ago. The words stung because they were true. Jalen stepped closer. Close your eyes. Graham scoffed, then did it anyway, angry at himself for listening. Remember the last time you walked? Jalen said softly. Not the accident. Before that. Images flooded Graham's mind, him walking through the garden, climbing stairs, standing tall in rooms where everyone listened. His throat tightened. Don't remember, Jalen said. Feel it. Graham concentrated, jaw clenched. Nothing happened. Frustration surged. This is pointless. Talk to them, Jalen said. Graham opened his eyes. Talk to who? Your legs. The silence stretched. That's ridiculous, Graham muttered. You talk to your fear every day, Jalen replied. Why not the part of you that's been ignored? Graham stared down at his legs. For 5 years, he'd treated them like dead weight, proof of his weakness. The idea of speaking to them felt humiliating, but something inside him cracked. I miss you, Graham said quietly, the words surprising him. I miss standing. I miss being whole. His voice broke. Tears followed, uninvited and unstoppable. Jalen placed a hand lightly on Graham's shoulder. Now treat you. Graham gripped the armrest and pushed. Nothing. Shame surged, heavy and familiar. Jalen didn't move. Use every bang, he said, not just your arms. Graham inhaled sharply. Rage, grief, years of humiliation. He pushed again, not just physically, but with everything he'd buried. His legs trembled. He froze. They moved, he whispered. Gin, Jalen said. Graham pushed harder. This time he felt it, a strange sensation creeping upward, like dormant wires waking. His legs shook, unstable but alive. Oh my God, Graham breathed. This isn't possible. For who? Jalen asked. With Jalen steadying him, Graham rose, just a little. His knees buckled, but they held. He was standing, barely, shakily, but standing. A sound escaped his throat, half sob, half laugh. He collapsed back into the chair, exhausted and shaken. Graham stared at Jalen like the world had tilted. You did this, he whispered. Jalen shook his head. You did. Graham remembered the $1 million then, the mockery behind the offer. You want your money? Jalen's answer was immediate. No. Graham frowned. Why not? Because the healing wasn't your legs, Jalen said. It was your heart. The words landed hard. In that moment, Graham understood something terrifying. He hadn't just underestimated Jalen because he was a child. He had underestimated him because he was black. Because the world had taught him to. And Jalen had dismantled that belief without ever raising his voice. Connor, watching from the doorway, wiped his eyes. Graham sat in silence, his worldview collapsing piece by piece. The miracle wasn't over. It was just beginning. Graham Hollis woke up the next morning with a strange feeling in his chest. It wasn't pain, it wasn't triumph, it was something far more unfamiliar. Peace. Sunlight spilled through the tall windows of Hollis Ridge Estate, stretching across the floor like it had always done. But for the first time in years, Graham didn't feel like a prisoner inside his own house. He sat at the edge of his bed, feet resting flat on the floor, breathing slowly, intentionally like Jalen had taught him. He tried to stand. His legs shook immediately, weak, untrained, honest about how much time they had lost. But they responded. Graham stood for a few seconds, gripping the bedpost, heart pounding. Sweat broke across his forehead, not from pain, but from effort. When he finally sat back down, he laughed quietly to himself, tears burning his eyes. 5 years of bitterness, 5 years of cruelty, 5 years of believing the worst thing that ever happened to him was his body. And now he knew the truth. The worst thing had been what he became afterward. Later that morning, Graham asked Connor Hayes to call everyone back to the estate. Not just staff, but people he had pushed away. People he had hurt. The first person to walk through the gates was Earl Bennett. The older black man moved cautiously as if expecting another humiliation. His eyes scanned the grounds, his shoulders tight with guarded dignity. Connor led him into the office. Graham wasn't behind the desk. He was standing. Barely steady, leaning on a cane, but standing. Earl froze. "I owe you an apology," Graham said, voice thick. "Not as your employer, as a human being." Earl stared, speechless. "What I did to you was cruel," Graham continued. "I used power to make myself feel whole when I was empty inside. That ends today." He swallowed. "If you're willing, I want you back. With a raise, full benefits, and I want to personally cover your wife's medical bills." Earl's eyes filled with tears. "Sir, I don't need forgiveness," Graham said softly. "I need to do better." One by one, changes followed. Staff members who once avoided eye contact now saw a man who asked their names and listened to the answers. Salaries were raised, healthcare plans expanded, college funds were created for employees' children. The estate didn't just look different, it felt different, but Graham knew the real test wasn't kindness when people were watching, it was what he would do next. 3 months later, Graham walked, slowly but unassisted, into Bluegrass Children's Hospital in Louisville. The hallway smelled like antiseptic and fear. He recognized the look on the parents' faces before they even spoke. Marisol and Ruben Vega stood beside their son Leo, a 7-year-old boy who hadn't spoken since a car accident 6 months earlier. Doctors had run out of explanations. Hope was wearing thin. "We heard about you," Marisol said, tears spilling freely. "They said you didn't accept impossible." Graham knelt in front of Leo, bringing himself eye level with the boy. "I can't promise you anything," Graham said gently, "but I can promise I won't give up on him." He worked with the family for weeks, not as a miracle worker, but as a student. He listened, he encouraged, he created space where fear didn't get the final word. Slowly, Leo began to hum, then whisper. Then one day he spoke his mother's name. Doctors called it spontaneous recovery. Graham called it something else, human connection. That night, walking alone through the gardens of Hollis Ridge, Graham stopped at the far corner where an old wheelchair sat beneath the lights. He had kept it there on purpose, a reminder. Not of weakness, but of humility. He thought about Jalen Brooks, the black boy with calm eyes who had walked into his life and dismantled decades of arrogance in a single week. Graham had tried to find him, quietly, respectfully, but Jalen was gone. No address, no trail, just a lesson that stayed. Graham smiled to himself. Some people aren't meant to stay. They're meant to change you. And sometimes the people society teaches you to ignore are the ones carrying the truth you need most. Graham Hollis had once mocked hope. Now he protected it, not because a child made him walk again, but because a child taught him how to see. How did this ending make you feel? Hopeful, emotional, or reflective? Do you think true healing happens more in the body or in the heart? If this story touched you, comment 111 below. Which country are you watching from? And if this message matters to you, please share this video so others can feel it too.